Hello, welcome to the Boss It podcast with Mark Edwards and Michael Humblett. This podcast is released every week and is an over-the-shoulder look of a frank and candid discussion between two experienced software executives, providing you with useful tips, techniques, and the latest concepts to help you grow your software business in the fast-paced digital age. So let's get into it. Here is Mark Edwards and Michael Humblett.
Good morning, Michael.
Good morning, Mark.
I've got a different start today. I want to start off with a tip straight in there, which is if you're listening to a podcast, if you're listening to a webinar or a video, and they started off by saying, "Hey, what's up?" Push stop. That's my tip for today. Never ever listen to business advice from somebody who starts it by saying, "What's up?" How's that for a tip?
Is that like how the rest of the 20-30 minutes going to be like today? just wondering, right?
Well, one of my colleagues said, he said, "I've been listening to your podcast." I thought, "Oh, that's good. He said, "And you and Michael, you've got this laid-back style where you take time to get sort of warmed up and you have a bit of chat and then you start giving advice." So I thought I'll come in straight hard with a bit of advice. How about that?
He's right.
Within the first 5 seconds.
It's like the one lesson they teach you if you go on LinkedIn and you post messages. Here is my tip.
Yeah.
The first sentence should be like the most important one should be like almost a conclusion. Normal people write a text and the last sentence is like the most important. So if you go LinkedIn and some of these communications, you have to take that sentence and start with it. So you're like straight away, because you get one line and a picture, that's it, or a movie, and people just drop off.
True. Absolutely. I think where people get confused though is that they think every bit of communication should be like that. You imagine if you're meeting somebody, and I have lots of meetings in London, and it's in a nice setting. And you sit down and you have a drink with somebody, and you start off by saying, "Well, what I do is," and you go straight into it. Yeah. People don't tend to do that, do they? They do have a bit of a warm up. They do want to know a little bit about you as an individual, and then a bit about the company, the background, and they want to talk a little bit about themselves. It's a bit like the early rounds of a boxing match, isn't it? You're sort of sizing each other up. If you imagine if you just went straight in with, "This is what I sell," and we do it for, 50,000. For 50,000, you can get this. I don't know. Maybe that's the way you do it in Belgium.
Yeah. Well, no. Belgium's. Let's not go there, Mark. Let's go to something else. I was in a company this week. I did I onboarded 2 clients, and the way I do it is I basically sit down and I say to the CEO, "You just arrange me all of your sales guys, your marketing team, the product, everybody you can imagine that has something important to say, and you give them half an hour to me. One day, half an hour slots, one after the other. And you start as a CEO, we end with you as a CEO, and in between I see all of these people. And basically when the people walk in, I say, you don't need to worry, I'm not hired to kill you," because they're always nervous.
Yeah.
And then I tell them, I said, "Look, this is the day to tell me all your shit and all your chaos and everything you have. Just throw it at me, what you don't like, what you like, just go." And I don't steer the conversation or anything, I just listen. And then amazing stuff happen. You feel sometimes really negative ones. Sometimes people, their bucket is overflowing and they just are happy. Some to basically dump all their stuff at you. And then in one day you get to know so much of a company. It's ridiculous. And then of course it's picking out short-term and longer-term tips. So this week I was in a very interesting company. You and I, we keep talking about engineers and the CEO, the founders. They have a big impact on how the company is structured.
Absolutely.
So this was a company in 3 years' time went from 2 engineers who built, I can't say what, some technology, let's say an SDK, like a toolkit.
Yep.
And we're 2 years and a half, never raised any money, 60 people, making lots of money, and now organically grown, didn't want to hire senior guys, like kind of started with a lot of juniors because didn't want to spend money, a classic one. And now the whole thing is it's in pieces, it's not connected, it's a mess, right? It's a mess, but it's a good mess. I told them, don't worry, we can untangle it. but it needs a lot of structure. And you see classic founders that cannot let go. They check everything, so they are becoming the bottleneck. I mean, it's like a textbook problem that you see a lot. So
Right.
imagine. So let me give you like 2-3 things, and then you can have a go at it, Mark. Let's do this game. I like this game.
All right.
So one,
I'm warming up
sales is the product. So one product. They only have one. They're working in the background a second one. They focus mainly on small customers with a lot of recurrent revenue, but small amounts.
Sure.
They have big issues delivering services because they're all over the place. The large engineering team, but all over the place. Sales, they hire 2 really, really senior guys sitting, let's say, abroad, hunter types, don't like to fill in CRM. They build an inbound machine, pretty good actually, really, really good, but handover is one big mess.
Yeah.
So you feel there's a lot of friction. Hire 2 senior guys. There's one is the channel manager, and the channel manager, first thing he says to me, I need somebody. Michael, I need to, so there's too many people working in this company. Second thing he says to me, I need to hire somebody to do my job because I need to do strategy. Yeah, that's something you need to tell me like that. Then I'm like, seriously. So what would you say? What would you go? What would you fix? Or how would you go about? I know I'm not giving you many variables.
I don't know the company name, and I can't look at any of the information.
Exactly.
I look at the big picture first of all. I think that's the most important thing, is really trying to understand what is this company all about. Right at the core. Yeah, I know they're a software vendor and they're selling a SaaS model, but what is it they're there to do? Where is their core strength? What would you say is their core strength? Don't say being a software vendor, because it's what's right at the essence within that business.
They've written an algorithm that speeds up things. Let's call it like that. But really ridiculously good.
Right. Okay.
And it's being used by tons of A players in the world at this stage.
Tons of A players.
Yes. Like very large media companies are using it, but really famous large media companies.
Okay.
But yet, even to very large media companies, their big deal is still 50, 60K per year.
All right. Okay.
Oh, right. See?
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. I mean, without actually looking at the business and asking you more questions that would identify who your client is, I would want to know their backstory. I'd want to know where they came from, because, we've mentioned this a number of times. Who those founders are, or who that founder is, creates the profile of that business 9 times out of 10. And that can be a positive and a negative. It can be both. It can be both. But I think what I like to start from is where is their key skill, strength?
They're hardcore engineers for me.
Yeah, but in what area?
Writing code and especially writing code. Let's say it like that.
But what is it in a particular? Have you seen? Although a lot of companies just sell in lots of different vertical sectors. Is there a particular sector that they know very, very well?
Yeah. So in what they do at the media, let's say the media, they're really, really good. And I mean, this is world-class things they're making. It's really, really high-end, really good. I mean, otherwise these very big brands would never bet like live productions on it. Let's say it like that. It's like live stuff. So it's really high-end.
Okay, so I think what I would
sounds like a Greek story here. You don't really know, and then his mother is married to a unicorn, by the way.
That's very appropriate. Excuse me. So I think without asking you too many questions that identifies the company, I think I would really want to dig down and get some focus in, and probably also get some very good customer examples of where their product's being used, where they can see the best case examples of why their product is really valuable. And then I'd like to try and get a feel for the real value that it's delivering. And I
Yeah.
think I'm picking up potentially, and remember, bear in mind, I'm doing it from very few facts here. I would say that you've got hunter salespeople who you say are good, right? If they're good, you mean that they're good at hunting. They're not necessarily good at the farming part, although some can be. But these guys are hunter types, which is an asset because there are probably fewer really good hunter type salespeople than the farmer. But my concern is the small value that they've got to their software. So I would want to have a look up precisely in what sector or sectors is their product provide the most leverage. I would want to understand what that value is. I want to try and work that through in my head. So I've got a feeling of what benefit would the customer really get from this. And then in order for the customer to benefit from it, what obstacles do they need to overcome?
Yeah.
Because I think this is where a lot of software vendors go wrong, is that they think their job is to write software and chuck it out there into the marketplace. You know, and this word about I'm going to differentiate myself. I want to talk about that later because so much crap spoken about that. Really, really, really. But I think is understanding the real value and then understanding that the path that client once they've found this customer, what are the steps they have to go through in order to realize that money. But I think from what you're saying, you're talking about a company that has got technology of value. They're very good at the engineering. They're able to speed things up, which is always, it's make yourself more efficient, cost effective, enable your customer to do it faster.
Mm-hmm.
But the type of companies, it sounds like that their product is highly aimed at, could probably pay more than 50 or 60,000.
Voila. So I agree with you. So I'm aiming the gun at a few things. One, the product, they need to slice and dice it so they can upsell to existing customers, right? Because they don't know exactly what has the most value, because I have the feeling they can ask a lot more for what they do. That's one. But you need to pre-frame your pricing to do that. Two, I also have a feeling that they get stuck with very large customers because they didn't realize that very large customers always want some custom work. See? So they've tried to so they don't make a difference between small and big. They treat every customer as the same, which is another problem.
Sure.
And then they don't realize if you're a big player and you say, I'm going to give you $1 million or 2 million or whatever, you're going to do whatever they want, right? You have to find a way to give professional services, structure that properly, and not try to change the product for every single customer. That's a classic I see, right? So we need to set up the PS, and we need to also learn and learn sales to say no, because now they say yes on everything, and that's the big problem. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to tell the sales, all of you, for the next 5 months, you get one large customer, and we will do everything for it, but you get one. So place your bets properly. See, that kind of style. So they have to think about what they're doing. And then there is some friction with purely sales on CRM and how do you get from inside sales to CRM. I need to look into that properly.
Well, you got to make that CRM a tool for those hunter salespeople so that they can do a better job with it than without it. And that's the answer. It's just simple.
And then I come to a point that we discussed last time. It's the way leadership approaches the whole thing. So they have a delegation issue, for sure, very clear. That's hard to solve. You know how that goes. It's a trust thing. There are several things why that's not happening. That's something I mean, we need to spend some time. And then the second thing is I told them in a very easy way to fix this is to ask those, I said, who makes the plan? Yeah, I've been thinking about the vision and the mission. And I said, yeah, but why don't you hire these people? They're pretty good. Let them make a plan. Very simple, 2-3 slides. So I provide actually a template, 2-3 slides. That's it. How would you do this? And I want them to take the ownership because they ask for that, the responsibility. And then you basically follow up. So you cut the big plan in 4 pieces, a year, and then every month. I'm not talking about the financials. That's later. That's another story. And then I ask them to report on it every month. And then they have to give like a status, a conclusion, and they have to make the one slide. I always say it's one slide, and I want it visual. And the reason it's visual is because 70% of people are visual. It draws your attention. And then I do it a bit like the McKinsey, with the red light system. I have 3 columns, and I say 1 is all about done, achieved, and you put it in. And then next to the done is the next steps on that topic. For instance, I need to fine-tune CRM. I need to add a category. I need to test blah, blah, blah. And then I have a red one. It's called challenges. And typically what happens is when you do that, everybody in a blink of an eye has seen, okay, that's done. We need to do the next step. And everybody starts focusing on the next step and the challenges. And that drives a company. It's alignment and it pushes this next step and it pushes the activity up. And that's something I want, movement. If you get stuck, start moving. Yeah. You feel bad, start moving. Things will be fine. But just move. Make a decision, move.
What you're doing there is you used exactly the right word, alignment. It sounds like you've got a business there, and bearing in mind, I think any software tech business of any size, you're going to have some strong characters in there. You're going to have people with some really good skills, experience, well-educated people, intelligent people, and they're going to have their own ideas and ways of doing things and their own methodologies.
And the one thing I'm always checking when I have all these people talking is I want to figure out, even if they complain a lot, are they loyal or not? Are they complaining because they see me as the savior? Then it's okay. If they just complain because, they're just not nice people. And so, but in this company, it was a really, really loyal bunch and they really love the company. They just want to fix it, right? It was pure frustration of let's fix it, which is a very good sign. I love that, right?
Yes.
That's okay. Everybody needs to be able to sometimes offload their stuff to somebody else.
That's a really good point, actually. Just you've made me realize something is actually when I go into organizations like this and you can talk to those people, it can tell you so much so quickly because you come in with an objective pair of eyes from the outside. You get a feel quite quickly from what's going on within the organization, even in the language that they use, the words that they use, not just what they're saying. You can tell from the body language. You can tell from their whole tonal demeanor. You can tell from the words and the phrases that they use where there's alignment and where there's friction within that organization. And that tells you a lot. And also the things that they focus upon, that also tells you a lot about that business.
The other thing I try to figure out, it's not only frustration. I always ask them, so what do you love to do? Because it's always the same thing. What you love, you will do well, and you will spend a lot of time. It doesn't feel like work. No. So a lot of people, sometimes they're just not doing what they love. And it's tough. It means you're the wrong person to do this because you will not. It's good for a month or, let's say, for 6 months or a year, but eventually it's going to lead to disaster.
Exactly right. I sort of frame that idea in right people sitting in the wrong seats. I see that so often in software companies.
But
very talented people doing the wrong thing.
Yeah, but the thing is always the same. If you're small teams, it's hard to move people around, and you kind of need to. That's why when companies grow, they go from startup to scale up to bigger and bigger. That's when suddenly the people start changing because you need different type of people or in different roles.
I don't mean that. No, because I understand that. Because I think when you first start, I know companies that have started and there are software, and it's one person or 2 people. It doesn't mean that you're going to have somebody for marketing, somebody for finance, somebody for sales. You can't do that in those early stages, and you've got to have people in there who can be a little bit jack of all trades. They can turn their hands to different things. Now, what I'm talking about are more sizable companies that have got lots of employees, but because quite often this will happen because of the focus or the profile of the founder, i.e. he came from a financial background, then you'll get his second in command is a finance guy, and his title may say just finance, or he might be chief operating officer, but I bet he gets involved in making a lot of the marketing decisions. and
Yeah,
he's
yeah, of
rubbish
course.
at it. It's rubbish, and he'll make decisions about sales, and he's rubbish at that as well. He's never
You
done it in
know
his
it.
life.
You know how I know? I have one of those guys. It's classic, the guy that keeps talking about data, 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 data. I need more data, data. I need to make a spread. I need to make a decision, and it's really interesting. I mean, a marketing sales guy will also need data, but it's a different way of phrasing, pushing for that. It's very weird.
I,
And yeah, it's yeah,
Yeah,
it's
I've got a theory on this, and this tell me if you think I'm right on this. So
yeah,
so you get a finance guy. I'm just
yeah,
picking on finance, all right?
of
So you get
course.
a finance. It's because neither of us are finance guys. That's the reason for that. So you get a finance guy, and he's put sort of second in command, and he's given the title of chief operating officer because the founder he can relate to finance people. He knows how these guys think. So he thinks finances they're great people. So we're making him chief operating officer, and he gets involved in sales. And when you go to see him, he's always got this opinion that actually these salespeople just can't sell because he's got a few concepts. He's spoken to a few salespeople. He might have read a couple of sales books, 20 years ago, and he's got a few concepts in his head that he's managed to turn into a mental model of selling. And he'll say
Hmm.
to you, selling's easy. You just got to turn up, you've got to knock on doors, you've got to be presentable, and you've just got to tell them, what it is you're selling, and don't waste time on people who aren't prepared to pay the money. And these salespeople, they just don't get it. And he said, or if it's marketing, he'll say, well, you just got to differentiate. I hate this word. Just differentiate yourself, and you've just got to grab the attention and speak clearly to these people. That is about the depth of his knowledge.
Hmm.
But then he will get involved in making decisions in the area of marketing and sales way beyond his knowledge and experience, way
Yeah,
beyond. And
yeah,
I've got this saying about, so if you turn this around, let's have, for every decision that you make in sales, let's have a salesman who's going to come into finance and work in finance for a day and start doing a few things in some of your financial programs. We do a swap. Let's do that. Or we're going to get a marketing guy to come in and he's going to do your job for a day. See how that works. Or where you get the company that's very technically biased. Let's get a marketing, because of technical people. We were saying last week about having technical people who create some of the marketing collateral or have massive input, or they design the demonstrations that are going to be shown to the customer.
hmm,
I mean, a lot of the time, technical people, they feel comfortable being technical people because they don't have to deal with other people. They're not the customer facing sort. They're comfortable hiding behind a computer, some of them,
yeah.
yet they make decisions about that interface. So let's get somebody from marketing to come and do some programming, some coding on some of your live software for a day. Let's see how that works.
Let me try that one because I'm really curious to see the reaction. I think on one end they'll do like, yeah, I get the point. On the other end they'll say, yeah, but Michael, you said you would get the deal.
I'm not necessarily saying to you go out and present it in quite the same way that I just presented it to you just
I
now,
will.
but
And then
you get the point.
whatever happens, Mark, I'm gonna blame you. Take your picture
Yeah,
with this
well,
guy on the podcast. Send him an email.
So with your customer that you're working with, customer X, you're going to get alignment. You're going to get systems and processes in place,
Yeah,
and you're
yeah,
going to get them with some clear goals and objectives.
yes.
Yeah.
And clean up whatever.
Do they have the opportunity to sell at a higher level?
Yes,
Because
absolutely.
yeah,
I think they're not. They never realized
higher
that that's
cost
something,
base.
and we talked about this a lot. They never realized the fact to big customers. The big customers want it, that it's going to take a bit longer, and that you need to structure what you're doing. You need to say to them, guys, it's change management. We're going to take you from there to there, and this is how it goes. They've never done it. That's my feeling. So I told them, I said, I want to be in a call to one of these guys. I want to see how you would present this to me, and then I know straight away most of the time what's happening.
I'll tell you a good question to ask them. Get them in a room and say to them, you say the highest value they're selling at the moment is sort of 60,000 roughly.
Yeah.
Get them in a room and say, as from tomorrow, your minimum sales value is 120,000. How are we going to do it?
The way to do it, by the way, when I do an interview with so I'm also interviewing a lot of senior executives in sales to hire for several companies. I'm just in the flow. One of the questions I always ask them is, if the target is 2 million, how would you get to 10 million? What do you need? And then you immediately see if you have the right flesh in the room, because they can't do it with the existing. So one, it's always hiring. Two, there's a lot of push and marketing, and you start thinking differently. Large account, and if I don't hear that, I know as a guy, it's going to be good sales, but this is not a leader. Right?
So I think that's a great way of doing it, because it sets their sights higher. It doesn't mean that they necessarily can achieve those sights, but it's interesting to see how it frees up their thinking. Yeah. And I think one of the things I've got an example from work that I've been doing the last few weeks, where I can see a company that has restricted its own thinking by the way that it thinks about itself, the way they think about their own company. And I was thinking the other night, I've always been quite keen on psychology, is actually this applies to individuals as well. We behave in a certain way because of the stories we tell ourselves.
True.
In all of the different areas. So what I mean by that is, there are people that I've come across and they say to me, not necessarily explicitly, but in different ways, they'll say, I'm a really unlucky person. Luck doesn't really come my way. They behave in a way that's in accordance with that story. And guess what? It's a self-fulfilling prophecy. Now, my son, from an early age, his name's Luke, and we always used to refer to him as Lucky Luke. And as a consequence, he's always done well in competitions and he's won lots of things. And the reason for that is, A, he will probably enter more competitions because he thinks that the outcome is going to be more positive. Secondly, when he enters those competitions, he enters it with that higher goal, what we've just been talking about, objective, and he enters it with confidence in believing that he's very likely he's going to win. Does it mean that he wins every time? No, but in order to win a competition, as the Americans say with the baseball analogy, you've got to stand on the plate and you've got to swing. And I think somebody who's unlucky won't go and stand there because they think, well, I'm not going to win, what's the point? But and the reason I'm saying this is, the same thing is true about the corporate story, the corporate narrative. Most of the time, software tech businesses don't have a corporate narrative. They don't even understand what a corporate narrative is, and they won't put one in place because they don't see the importance of it. And actually, it is right at the very core of your success or not, because that story would help to align the people within the company, and it gives you focus. It is about who you are and how you go about being who you are as well. That's another really important thing, is it's who you are and what you do is how you go about it, because it doesn't necessarily mean that you are just a software vendor. In fact, you're not.
Mark, you know what we miss, Mark, now? We miss this background build-up music.
Yes.
With cymbals and violins.
We need Space Odyssey music.
You need a stage, Mark. This is stage stuff, what you're saying. I mean, this is, I love it. It's exactly right. And I agree. And by the way, in sales, I see exactly the same. It's the sales narrative. And typically...
I love this stuff because it really is so important. It's right at the core. I mean, my job is to make software CEOs and shareholders more successful. And if you focus on that, really focus on it, then it makes everything else a lot simpler. It's the same for yourself. You know your job. You know why. You know what you're there to do. That you've got a story that you tell yourself about who you are and why you're there. That's what works.
Exactly. That's why I start my speeches with sales is like swimming in the lake of rejection, and Mark. And then if you know that and you realize that and you realize it's not even swimming, you can stand up on it and walk away from that, then you're fine. But you have to believe in it.
Yes.
The other thing I do, by the way, if I just look at that and I just told you the slide stories and I'm listening to you, is one of the things I tell a lot of these leaders is that, look, what you will watch every day, you will focus on and you will change. So that's why I always reduce all the type of KPIs they have and make it 1 to 3 maximum.
Yes.
And I show that to them like every 2 days. And after a while, if for instance one is 0, and if the goal is I need to have more meetings with large corporates, whatever, and in the beginning I just leave the 0. I don't say anything. I just show it the whole time. And after a while they get so nervous with it, they'll start changing it. I do that a lot with sales type teams. Basically, I just show. Don't even say something because they know. And then after a while, you can move a whole machine. Show it every. It's like the vision stuff. If you keep repeating, that's what we're gonna go. People will follow.
Yeah, I suppose it's a bit like it's driving a car, isn't it? In the car, you've got your dashboard in front of you, and you're shown quite a bit of information, but at any one time, you're seeing relatively few things compared to what information you could be shown. But that information is relevant to your job at that time of driving the car, and mainly it's around speed. If you were shown too much information, that become an overload, and it could actually deteriorate your driving ability because you spend too much of your brain would be taken up in looking at that dashboard. But you do need some information, and I think where your skill is identifying what information is key. Key performance indicators, not just performance indicators. No, that's the difference, isn't it?
So, Mark, a son and a dad go outside.
Is this going to be a joke or a question?
No, it's a serious story. It's a serious story. And the dad has a gun, like these guns that you shoot on the how do you call that? Like you can shoot these little pipes on the camis. I don't know how you would that. Like you go with your kids to this split.
Blowpipe?
The blowpipe. Yeah, blowpipe, exactly. So you have this gun, small gun. So the dad says to his son, "Come, I'm going to teach you how to shoot." And he says, in the meantime, I'm going to teach you the most important lesson in your life. So the dad takes the gun, puts in a little bullet, and he shoots, says, "You see the apple there, 30 meters further," pops straight into the apple. Son says, "Damn, Dad, you're good." And he says, "Now I'm going to teach you the real professional version of this." And he takes a handkerchief and he ties it around his head, and he doesn't see anything. Blindfold. Loads the gun. Yep. Yeah, blindfold. Loads the gun and just shoots anywhere around it. Completely wrong. And the son says, "Haha, Dad, come on. You completely missed it. You didn't even try." And he said, "No, son, that was the lesson. If I'm not watching at my target, I cannot shoot at it."
Right. Yeah.
No joke, huh? I tell you, not a joke. I was at a baseball game, and it was the guys from St. Louis, the Cardinals, who actually went to win the World Series that year. But I was in the most boring game of the whole century, I think. And nothing happened, and people walked around, and they kept bringing me buckets of light beer. Belgium guys have a problem with light beer.
I can imagine.
It's kind of like tea for us, right? Right comparison. And after a while, I started asking the people, "Why do you drink light beer, actually?" And they go, "Oh, Michael, then we can drink more beers." Because the game takes 6 hours, right?
I'd actually wondered that myself. I mean, I've been to a couple of American football games, and I've seen that. I'm not a fan of light beer. I must admit, I must be fairly similar to yourself in that respect. But so why do they want to drink more beer?
I no idea. Consumption.
They just have to get out of their seat more. Visit the gents. It's strange.
Yeah, but it's strange. They're all running around. I mean, I went to a cricket game that took 3 days. That was also an experience for me. I still don't understand the game at all. But it was weird. It's just different.
It is, yeah. Yeah, I've got an idea. I've got something written down for once. Actually, one of the notes that I've written down, I'm actually going to introduce into the podcast, because normally I write down a few things and then we start talking and I don't mention any of them. But this one, last week, I think it was, we introduced a new word. I like to introduce things that I know there's no one on this podcast will know what the hell I'm talking about, but it might just stick in their head. We spoke about punctum. And we were talking about doing a demonstration and having a punctum, something that really stands out and sticks in the memory, something that makes people sit up. And we explained a bit about the background of that. got a new word for you. You won't have heard of this, Michael.
Okay, tell me.
Miksang. Miksang.
Never heard of it.
Really, really important. It's actually a Tibetan word, and it's to do with seeing clearly, a seeing eye. And how I apply that in the software sector is to go into that organization and to really look. Like we were saying about all of those things, you come in with an objective view, is to really look at that business to see what is this company all about? What is at their core? Declutter it, take away all of the noise, take away all of the chatter, and look what's really deep down in their DNA and build up from there. And I think that's a really valuable thing to do in any organization. It can absolutely transform companies. So my word for this week is Miksang, Miksang. Look it up. You will see it. You'll see it. It actually relates. It's been picked up in the photography world for clarity of vision. But actually, it's much bigger concept than that. It's about having that clarity of sight in wherever you may be looking, and removing the unnecessary, making a decision as to what you exclude in order to find what's at its real core. And when you can do that on a software business, it makes a massive difference. That's worth thousands of pounds, that one tip there, Michael, don't you think?
10,000s of pounds.
10,000s of pounds, exactly.
I like to think in euros, but I'll forgive you for once.
Yeah, I'm British, we don't think in other languages, we don't think in other currencies. We're like that.
True.
We've been going 36 minutes, so that's pretty good. That's enough value for today, isn't it? There's so much value in that. How much do we charge now for this podcast? It must be up to a couple of thousand a week, isn't it?
A couple of thousands.
God, there's so much value in there, guys. Again, I've had some more feedback this week about the podcast, which is really nice. I had somebody saying to me that the podcast has become a bit of an obsession for them. They've been listening to it avidly, which is really nice. Yeah, genuinely. Yeah, had that just this week. But I also said I'd like to hear about specific topics. I'd like a challenge, actually. We're sort of challenging each other, aren't we, with these questions?
Absolutely.
Throw some challenges at us, or questions, problems that you're seeing within your company that you've been struggling with. The benefit that we have is that we've worked with lots and lots and lots of companies. It's not that we're Einstein. It's just
and it's free advice.
Well, relatively free. It would be on this podcast.
Absolutely.
Brilliant. Good to speak to you this morning. On a Saturday morning, we're doing it again. Crazy, isn't it?
It's me. It's me this time.
It is, yeah. I'll forgive you this week, but next week.
Just blame the Belgium.
Yeah, next week. No weekends. We're not working on weekends. So get yourself organised.
Okay.
All right. Good to speak.
Cheers.
Bye.
Bye.